Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would get this video out of the way. This is going to be a fight prediction between Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith. In my opinion, this is a very big fight. This is debatably going to be the biggest challenge of Canelo's career when it comes to facing a fighter that is at 168 or 175. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to always be the most challenging fight of his career, and does that mean that that this is the most challenging fight out there? No, that's not what I mean. But this is probably the most challenging fighter he has fought at either 168 or 175. And a certain amount of people are going to, get at me and say, what are you talking about? He faced Sergey Kovalev. He did, but Sergey Kovalev had suffered two knockout defeats. He was a little bit more broken down as a fighter, and I still give Canelo Alvarez a lot of credit for defeating even that version of Sergey Kovalev, because Sergey Kovalev had a win over a later Alvarez, recently when he beat Sergey Kovalev, and he also won against Anthony Yard. So when it comes down to it, it's not like Sergey Kovalev was just, chopped liver. But when it comes down to it overall, I believe Canelo Alvarez is going to get more credit for defeating a Callum Smith. And in my opinion, this is a big fight. And you're going to have a lot of people, especially a lot of the LDBC and new media members, claim, oh, well, this isn't a big fight. He's taking the easy way out. He should face Jamal Charlo or Demetrius Andrade. When I look at Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to beat Canelo, but I just don't see them beating Canelo. I don't see either Demetrius Andrade or Charlo having an A-grade skill set, and a certain amount of people would disagree on that. But it is what it is, and I can name you all the faults that I see with them, but we'll save that for another video if it really gets down to it. Bottom line is this: Callum Smith, out of any of those fights overall that I just mentioned, is probably the biggest challenge. When you name Jamal Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, you could have a legitimate argument that Callum Smith is actually the biggest challenge for Canelo Alvarez. If you were going to argue who else might be the biggest challenge out of them, I would say that, you would argue David Benavidez or Caleb Plant, but it most likely would be one of the 168 pounders, in my opinion. But it is what it is. But when it comes down to it, this is an excellent fight. Canelo Alvarez, I've been watching him for a very long time. I've been watching him ever since his fights with Austin Trout, Floyd Mayweather, Erislandy Lara. I remember at one point in time, I thought Canelo Alvarez was a very one-dimensional fighter. And the reason why I thought that was because one of the first performances I seen him, in was against Erislandy Lara. And I was not overly impressed with Canelo Alvarez in that performance. I thought that Lara, in certain situations, made him look very, very, very slow, very one-dimensional, very straight up and down. I wasn't overly impressed with Canelo. It took years for Canelo overall to earn my respect. It really did. Now I'm much more of a logical and objective person now than I was back then. But when it comes down to it, it took a long time for me to realize truly how great Canelo Alvarez was. And now that I do realize how great Canelo Alvarez actually is, in my opinion, especially with Lomachenko's recent loss to Teofimo Lopez, excuse me, when it comes down to it overall, sorry about that. Anyway, when it comes down to it, with Lomachenko's recent loss to Teofimo Lopez, I probably would have to have Canelo Alvarez as the number one pound-for-pound fighter. So the question is, how much of a chance does Callum Smith have in this fight? What can he do to win this fight against, in my opinion, the number one pound-for-pound fighter? This is going to be a very tough fight, in my opinion, possibly for both of them. Now, my prediction, who do I think is going to win? I do think it is going to be Canelo Alvarez. I think Canelo Alvarez is most likely going to win by decision. Would I be surprised if he won by stoppage? I wouldn't be surprised. But when I take a look at Callum Smith, I think that he is very talented. Callum Smith, all the good things I see about him, very good counterpuncher, likes to wear his opponents down on the inside, decent power, not bad hand speed, defensively responsible. The only area I would say that Callum Smith would need to improve on is that his head movement doesn't necessarily seem to be A class. And you have to watch out, especially with that with Canelo, because Canelo is a very accurate puncher. He's an extremely accurate puncher. He's a sharp counter puncher. He's excellent with combinations, and he loves to go to the body. He loves to go to the head. He loves to go to the body. But especially with his bigger opponents, he loves to dig in there, with body shots. So it's going to be interesting. So what do I think Callum Smith has to do here to win against Canelo? In my opinion, I think that Callum Smith actually should try and outbox Canelo a little bit here. Now, to some people that might seem obvious. I don't think that Callum Smith should try to just go in there and try to rough up Canelo Alvarez all the time. I'm not saying you don't want to do that here and there, because you do want to end your combinations to the body. Like, say, a jab and a right hand and then a left to the body, maybe a jab and a right hand to the body and, a left hook to the head. Mix them up a little bit. The jab is also very important in this fight. You want to, mix it up. You don't want to be just, not have any variety in your punches. You want to have a jab to the head every once in a while, double jab to the body, jab to the head, jab to the body, jab a couple times to the body. You want to mix it up. You want to make sure that you're not being too one-dimensional or that you don't have any variety in your punches whatsoever, because Canelo has a lot of variety. He's an excellent combination puncher, very sharp counter puncher, very good forward, and very good, going backwards. But Canelo does have a problem with slick defensive fighters overall that try to shoot at different angles. If Callum Smith somehow is able to do that and is able to keep a good jab out there, because Canelo is not necessarily good at avoiding a jab. There's 3 weaknesses Canelo mainly has. He is not necessarily great at cutting off the ring. He overall does not avoid a jab very well. And on top of that, he does not have great stamina, which is why I say to beat a Canelo Alvarez, you want to end your combinations to the body. Now, it seems like for whatever reason, and I've heard a certain amount of people tell me, well, it's because of the power that he has, and it's because, it's because of his counter-punching ability, which it very well could be. That's understandable. But not a lot of opponents like to go to Canelo Alvarez's body. And with Canelo Alvarez, you need to go to the body, because Canelo Alvarez does not really have great stamina. He never has had a good gas tank. He fights for a good 7 rounds, but when it comes down to it after that, his gas tank is a little bit finicky. It's a little bit, up and down. He does not really fight usually for a full 12 rounds, and there's certain fighters that just don't do that. Certain fighters that have great gas tanks, like a Lomachenko or a Terrence Crawford or something like that. Not every fighter can fight for a consistent 12 rounds, and Canelo is not one of those fighters. So if you have a fighter, especially like a Callum Smith, that is going to have the height advantage, is going to have a significant reach advantage, take advantage of that. Not only shoot Canelo Alvarez at different angles and stick your jab out there, mix your punches up, and your combinations to the body, especially that good left hook he has, shoot it to Canelo Alvarez's body. You don't want to get too, in there sometimes and get countered or something, but you want to get in there every once in a while and rough him up a little bit. Just make sure, to be careful of his counters. Always keep your hands up and be defensively responsible, which Callum Smith seems to be. There's certain fighters that, when they're on the inside, they will make a mistake of keeping both hands down while they're throwing, kind of like Anthony Joshua does sometimes, which is one of the flaws I see with him, which is why he actually gets hit by quite a bit of left hooks. Excuse me. But when it comes down to it, rough him up a little bit. Stick your jab out there, shoot at different angles, move side to side, always be moving, and sometimes, if you're not moving, then back Canelo up a little bit and your combinations to the body. You want to move at different angles, but you also want to, put him on the back foot a little bit here and there, just to show that you got power, that you can overall, put him on the back foot, show that you can box on the back foot, but also go forward a little bit. You don't want to do too much of one thing. I think in this fight, if you're Callum Smith, you want to do both of those things. But when it comes down to it, the question is this: will Callum Smith do that? And in my opinion, he probably won't. Callum Smith doesn't seem like that kind of fighter. It seems like most likely he is going to be on the front foot, Would I be surprised if for the first few rounds he tried to work behind his jab? No. But also the question is this, not only how great is Canelo Alvarez with a fighter like this, but secondly, how great is Callum Smith? How talented is he? Because when I take a look at Callum Smith, he does have all the tools to possibly beat a Canelo Alvarez. He looks like he has the possible talent, and he looks like overall he has the possible physical tools. But is he going to establish them the right way? And is he going to come in there with the right tactics? We'll have to see. He very possibly could defeat Canelo Alvarez, but of course we all know the scorecards in Canelo fights are a little bit iffy, as we've seen in the past, but it is what it is. Either way, Canelo is a great fighter. He's an excellent counter puncher. He's a very accurate puncher, and he will kill you to the body. Overall, if you're a bigger target or whatever target is in front of him, really, it doesn't really matter. But especially since Callum Smith is a bigger target, the body will be a little bit more open usually if he is not defensively responsible. So this is going to be a very interesting fight. But Callum, on the other hand, he has a very good jab. If he sticks that jab out there consistently, if he goes to Canelo's body, ends his combinations to the body, overall throws combinations, sticks that jab out there, we just might get a very interesting fight, ladies and gentlemen. So it'll be very interesting. I'm very excited for this fight. I expect Canelo Alvarez to win this fight, most likely 8 rounds to 4. But don't be surprised if we see a 7 rounds to 5 fight. Don't be surprised if we see possibly Callum Smith pull it out. I would be surprised if Callum Smith pulled it out, but I wouldn't be shocked. So let's just say that. But anyways, it'll be very interesting. My prediction is that Canelo Alvarez wins by a 12-round unanimous decision, probably around 8 rounds to 4. But that's really about it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see what happens. I cannot wait for this fight. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all later.